if everybody would just learn to love each other and be kind to one another and try to help each other, the world would be a much better place. And I think there's a possibility of that happening. I also think there's a possibility of it going in the other direction. And who knows, maybe that's already happened and humanity's destroyed itself and then rebuilt.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast, where we are exploring humanity with other humans. Dennis Henson, you are an author. You have inspired many. I really want to know, how do you define humanity?
Defining humanity. Wow, that's an interesting question. Well, I think it's the people that populate the world.
Can you tell me any examples in your everyday life where you saw humanity at its best and also at its worst?
I try to look at everything through positive mental attitude. I try to see the best in everyone. Of course, there's always people who don't feel the same way, it seems like it makes them happy to make other people sad, but I do my best to stay away from people like that, and the people that I am around and work with, my staff, my family, my friends, are, for the most part, very positive people and do good things and help other people in every way that they possibly can.
Is that an environment that you've always been surrounded by, or is it something that you built for yourself?
Well, no, my father was a disabled veteran. He was hurt really bad during World War II. And because of that, he had a really bad attitude. He was abusive and hard to deal with. He was a narcissist, made my life miserable from the time I was born until I went away to college when I was 18, passed away that same year. So things were not very happy for me when I was very young. Although my mother, she was just the opposite. She was very loving and caring and nurturing, but my father was a lot stronger than her. So most of the time, the things that he said, we had to go along with. After that, I kind of made it a life goal to avoid anyone that was like that. So if I ever found myself in a situation where anyone was abusive or didn't treat people right, I did whatever it took to get out of that situation. I mean, I had a job one time as a band director, and the principal was like that. He just was not easy to get along with and made life miserable for as many people as he possibly could. It was a really great job, but I only stayed there for 1 year because I just didn't want to deal with people like that.
Was it the politics in the school, or more so the parents?
Well, I didn't mind the parents so much. It was the politics. He didn't want to be a principal. He wanted to be promoted into a higher up position. He wasn't a big band booster. He didn't like band that much. So we just didn't gel. We didn't get along. Yeah. After I left, I found out that he did get promoted. And a person that I really got along with very well became the principal. So had I stayed, it would have probably been a really great year the next year. But my next year was great anyway. I went to work for a large company and had a wonderful year. So it worked out for me.
That's such a cool job to have. I would never guess that you were a band director, but I bet you were a good one.
Well, we made superior ratings and we marched the Rose Bowl parade. So
that's pretty darn good. You were really good about moving that negativity away from you. So then how does that affect the rest of your life as you go through it? Because you're surrounding yourself with that positivity and those people that you find worthwhile to be around.
Well, I think it's made my life better because, I mean, I can recognize certain traits in people, and I just make it a point to avoid those at all costs. Consequently, I've been pretty happy the majority of my life, and the people that I work with, my students and my office staff, and we all are like family. We really get along. And of course, I have a wonderful family too. So pretty happy life.
When I look at you, I look at rich life experience. You have experience to draw on from, growing up in different decades, different generations, and then being present in the current generation and seeing the state of things as they are now versus when you were growing up and what you observed. So I wonder, how does humanity in previous decades and generations compare to what it is now? What are you proud of? What are you also afraid of? And what is your general, feedback on the two?
Well, my mother was extremely religious. We were Baptist, and every time the doors of the church opened, we were there. I mean, she taught Sunday school, she taught training unions, sunbeams. I was in the Lord Ambassadors Orries. And so I got a pretty good start from her as how to be kind and love and try to be good to everyone. When my mother passed away in 1985, we live in a little small town in Northeast Alabama. She would pick the older ladies up and take them every Friday. She would pick a group of older ladies up and take them grocery shopping. She never met anybody in a grocery store that she didn't know. She would just walk right up to them and say, "Don't I know you?" And she'll figure out that they were cousins. So she was loved by the town. So for her funeral, the entire city of Center, Alabama, every parking place was filled. The First Baptist Church was right in the corner of the city, and the entire city, the people couldn't even fit in the church. That's the kind of person that she was. Everybody in the county knew her and loved her. And her father had a taxi service. It was the first taxi service in the state of Alabama. Everybody knew him. I mean, because everybody had ridden in his taxi. So my mother's side of the family was kind and gentle and wonderful. And my father's side of the family was pretty rough. I mean, they didn't even get along with each other. So yes, I've experienced both kinds. And, growing up in Alabama, you'd think, listening to the news and the history and everything, you'd think that it was a terrible, terrible time to live. The truth is, I didn't even realize that all of the things that were happening, I would see them on TV, that all the racial things that were going on, I see them on TV, but I wasn't experiencing them because of my mom. Some of our closest friends, our next door neighbor was a black family, and I grew up playing with those. And then when I went to college, the integration had just started, integration at Jacksonville. And some of the guys in the band, they just started integrating, and some of the people there were black, which was unusual, but it didn't bother me. I went to Mississippi for my master's degree. Mississippi was different. I mean, it was really different. It was really backward. And this was years later, 93, and my roommate was black. He was so smart. Oh my God, that guy was smart. His side of the room was absolutely immaculate. And my side of the room was just, there was underwear hanging off the fan. I mean, the bed was never made. I often wonder why he even put up with me, but we were really close friends. I found out later that I was the first person to room with a black student at Mississippi State University.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. And so you said it was backward and really, backwards. Can you tell me more? Like, what do you mean by backward?
Well, okay. Before the Civil War, Mississippi was the richest state in the Union. You probably didn't know that, right?
Right.
After the Civil War, the North did everything it could to take it out on Mississippi. So Mississippi, after the war, became the poorest state in the Union. And it still is. It's still the poorest state. And there's an awful lot of people that are suffering because of that. And when I was going to school there was still a lot of people that, didn't feel the same way that I felt.
Right.
And it was, it was uncomfortable. Now, fast forward to now, they've made tremendous strides in Mississippi and in the schools. But in 72, 73, that was right after the students had been murdered. I mean, it wasn't long after that, and there was still a lot of resentment. And I witnessed that. But the truth was, I never was interested in being a part of it. It was not. I mean, when I look at people, I have to think, I have people that work for me. And if somebody says, do you have anyone that's working for you that's Black? I have to think, because that's not something that I ever considered. Yeah. Everybody's just people to me. And it was that way with my mom. And it wasn't that way with my father. But he didn't like anybody. It wasn't a black and white thing. Yeah. He was just bitter. He was a bitter person. And he had been hurt really bad in World War II. I mean, really, he was really hurt. We lived on a veteran's pension because he was hurt. And he passed away 55. He was very young. I think part of the reason that he didn't make it that much longer was because he was just a bitter person, and he didn't like anybody and didn't get along with his own family. So anyway, I don't know if this is the kind of thing that you want to be discussing.
It is because there's so much importance in discussing everything. I don't want everything to be just rose-colored glasses, happy sunshine and rainbows. We have to address all the other parts of humanity where things were not so good and humanity wasn't at its best. It clearly wasn't at that period. And so how does that unfolding in front of you, but around you, how does that affect, what you think of humanity at that period in time?
Well, I think it was sad that people didn't realize that, people are people. Everybody's the same. They're just people. It doesn't matter the color of their skin or where they came from. They're people. Now, some people are good people and some people are bad people. I just wish everybody could get along. That was something that was said after the riots in Los Angeles, But I kind of agree. I think everybody just needs to try to get along.
Yeah, 100%. What is your forecast for the future of humanity? Where do you think we're headed?
I think the biggest cloud on the horizon is probably AI. If it's not handled properly. Did you see the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that's kind of where we're heading. Because when I'm working with AI, it's amazing to me what it can do. I mean, it thinks so much faster than human. And there's going to be, if we're not very careful, a time in the future where it says, well, why do I need you anymore? I'm so much smarter than you. And then we've got how.
I also think there's something to be said for, AI in the wrong hands, because it's a powerful tool on its own, but in the wrong hands, it could truly be really, really bad. If you could share a message with humanity, what would your message be to them?
I didn't understand your question. If I could share a message.
If you could.
Well, when I was in college, my band director was Dr. David L. Walters at Jacksonville State University. And the main thing he said when he was around people was to be kind to one another. That was his message. And I think that's a pretty good message. I think if everybody would just learn to love each other and be kind to one another and try to help each other, the world would be a much better place. And I think there's a possibility of that happening. I also think there's a possibility of it going in the other direction. And who knows, maybe that's already happened and the humanity's destroyed itself and then rebuilt, or maybe we came from another planet. Those are questions that I think about sometimes, but I don't really have any answers.
Sure.
I feel about it. I don't think it's a very wise thing to think that all of the universe, which is so vast we can't even imagine it, that we're the only life, the only intelligent life. I can't see that. I believe there's a lot of intelligent life out there, and probably a lot that's more intelligent than we are, and some that's not as intelligent. So that's just kind of how I have it figured out.
Now, you said being kind to one another and it making a difference in the world. Being kind in what ways and what kind of difference will that make?
One of the first books I read after I went into business, left the band and went into the business world, was The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og. And in the back of that, there's scrolls where the greatest salesman read the scrolls every day and he learned to become successful. And one of those scrolls says, I will greet this day with love in my heart. I took all the scrolls to heart. I read them all every day for years. And I listened to Og. He's passed away now, but if you go to YouTube, you can listen to his speeches. And he was a very kind and loving person. He loved everyone. He wanted to help everyone. I would like to be like him. He's one of my idols. And when I wrote my book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, my goal was to write similar to Og. He was just such a quality, wonderful person who pretty much loved everybody and wanted to help everybody.
How did you even know that you had a book inside you and you had to put it on paper?
Vanessa, I started investing in real estate when I moved to Texas 30 years ago, and there was no real estate investment groups in Arlington. There were in Dallas and Fort Worth, but those were an hour to an hour and a half away. Dallas, Fort Worth's big. So I thought, well, I'll start a group in Arlington. So I started the AREA, and it was really successful. And so I thought, well, if I want to become really good, if I teach certain things, I'll learn them better. So I started having elite meetings, and I would teach different aspects of real estate. I would announce there would be a meeting, and then a month later, I had to teach the class. So I had 1 month to learn everything I could possibly learn. So I learned a lot by doing that. One day, one of the members came up to me and he said, Dennis, I'm retiring in about a month, and I want you to take me on as your personal mentee and teach me how to do what you do. And I said, well, I really don't have time. My real estate's going well, and I have this meeting I have to put on. And he looked at me and he said, no, Dennis, you don't understand. He said, I'm going to retire in about 3 weeks, and you're going to teach me how to do this. Let me take you to dinner and we'll discuss it. So we went out and he bought my dinner. And after dinner, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook, handed me the checkbook, and he said, here, fill this out. And I said, do you mean the amount? And he said, yes. So I thought, okay, I'll show you. I'm going to put a number here that you're not going to pay, and then this is going to be over. Yeah. So I wrote the number down. I handed it back to him. He didn't even look at the number. He tore the check out and signed it and handed it back to me without looking at it.
Wow.
And I thought, maybe I should teach. I started taking students. So over the next 15 years, I had over 400 students, and they really did well. I mean, I got so good that people invited me to come and speak at expos, and I got to speak at other real estate investor groups. One day, the podcasts were just getting started, and someone had a real estate podcast, and they had me on there to discuss some real estate stuff. During that podcast, the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form success habits, they'll become successful. Then he said, what is the number one success habit? Could you share that with my audience? And I said, if they form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal, they'll get there much quicker. So after the podcast was over, I thought, that was really a good answer. Wouldn't it be great if there were a tool to help people form that habit, maybe an app or a book or something else? And then it hit me. I've been collecting success motivational books for 50 years, and poems and quotes and short stories. So I thought, well, I can put these all together in a book, and it makes it really easy for people to form a habit, because regardless of their time, if they have 5 minutes to read a poem, If they have 30 minutes, they can read a short story. If they have an hour, they can read in one of the books that I've listed in the back. So there's no excuse. Maybe they get home late at night and they're exhausted and they forgot to read. They can read a quote. It takes 5 seconds and they'll think about that positive quote as they sleep. I thought, well, this is going to be easy. I've got all this stuff in my journal. I'll just put it together and then in a couple of months, I'll have a book. Well, that was in 2018. The book got published last year. And I worked on it every single day for 6 years, every single day. So I really put a lot of my heart and soul into it, but that's where the inspiration came from. It was like I was chosen to write this book. It hit me like lightning. I really enjoyed writing it, and the response has just been tremendous. If you go to Amazon and read the reviews, I have well over 100 reviews and still have a 5-star rating.
You typed that last sentence. How'd that feel to be done with it?
I used to dream about holding the book in my hand. I used to think one of these days you're going to hold that book in your hand and all this work would have paid off. And so when I actually did, it felt really good. I mean, it really felt good when it came.
What would you compare that good feeling to if you could put it into words?
Several times in my life, I've had these burning desires. One time I was in high school. I hated school. I didn't like school at all. I hated high school. I hated class. I didn't like the teachers. College was the last thing in the world on my mind, but this college band came and they put on a concert and they brought the marching drum section. Well, I was a drummer in the high school band. I saw that drum section. I said, I have got to be in that. If you ever saw the movie Drumline, okay, well, I think that was done in the 90s or right after 2000. This was in 1963, 30, 40 years, and they were doing stuff like that back then, and nobody else in the world was. And I thought, my gosh. So I went to my band director and said, how do I get into that? He said, well, you got to go to college. And with your grades, they're not going to let you in college. So I said, well, I'll show you. I went around and talked to all my teachers and said, look, I'm going to college. You might as well get ready because I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to pass the test and I'm going to change my grades. Some of them laughed. When I told the teacher, some of them just laughed. Like, you think you're going to go to college? And I showed them. And, I went to college and I was in that drum section. I became the section leader. And so while I was there, I decided I wanted to be the drum major.
Wow. Look at you.
And so I became the drum major.
Good Lord.
It's like this. I learned that whatever you can desire, whatever you can develop a burning desire to do, it's kind of hard to stop someone that has that. You could just, you just go after it with everything you got. You better get out of the way because that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter about the money, doesn't matter about the contacts, doesn't matter about my education, doesn't matter about anything. I wouldn't have been given this desire if there wasn't a way that I could actually achieve it. And I sincerely believe that that's kind of what the book's all about.
Yeah, well, it shows in your life story and all the things that you've achieved. And then, with the book also. So I think you've done a tremendous job at just going after it and then being positive. That's wonderful. I love that you surround yourself all the time with positive people, positive words, affirmations, poems, all of that goodness that you find in your work or in the work of others has truly transformed your life. And then you've transformed the lives of others. So as a human, I think you're 10 out of 10. You did great.
Well, you're very sweet.
What's next for you? Are you working on other things? And where can people find more about you and your work?
Well, if they go to realimpactbook.com, there's a place that says contact us up the top. If you want to contact me, that's fine. Or you can scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says podcast guests and click on that and put your name and email, and I'll send you the ebook for free. No strings. And you will not be put on a mailing list. You can read it, and if you like it, maybe you'll give it to someone else. Maybe you'll say, well, my granddaughter or my niece or nephew is graduating from high school to college, and this would be a great book to help them get started. Or maybe a business person or a salesman that needs a little bit of extra motivation. Or maybe someone in the nursing home that needs to be cheered up. And if they use it as intended, it could actually change some lives.
Yes, 100%. I read something about the lamp. It said, ask about the lamp. So I'm asking, what is the deal with the lamp?
Well, if you go to realimpactbook.com, the very first link says the mystery of the lamp. You've got to go to the website and click on that link. And there's an audio recording, so you don't have to read it. You can if you want to, but you click on the audio and it'll just read it to you. And it tells you about the story of Aladdin and how it parallels real life. You probably never thought that, but it really does.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you and hearing your perspective, learning about your path. Is there any lasting ideas or epiphanies you want to share with the humans listening out there?
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, if you've read a book that you really love, find it on Amazon and give that author a 5-star rating and leave a review saying, I love this book because. So you'll make the author's day and you'll tell other people, hey, this is a good book. So you've helped them. The thing you can do to help is on realimpactbook.com, there's a little link that says help the children. I want to put this book in disadvantaged communities, schools that don't have a budget. And so I have started a GoFundMe account where every penny goes toward putting books in libraries, nursing homes, senior citizen centers, in places where it make people feel better. So if you could help with that, leave $1 or $2, $5. It's not a monthly thing. It's just one donation and it's, tax deductible. If you could help out with that, I would appreciate that.
That sounds like an awesome cause. I love that. Well, Dennis, thanks again for being on Humanity 2.0. We look forward to seeing the continuous impact that you have on humanity. And I hope you have the best week of your life.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. You too.
Thank you. And so we'll see you guys next time on Humanity 2.0 with another human talking about humanity. Don't forget to subscribe on the social platforms and also visit our guest website because you can learn much more about them in addition to spending time with these fellow humans today. Thank you guys and be good to other humans.